Alright guys, you're probably at least passingly familiar with the Fat Boys because they're a huge crew, no pun intended, I'm sorry. But they had multiple albums over multiple years, I would say even over like eras of hip hop. They lasted. They came out in the very early 80s, known as the Disco 3, talking like 1983, produced by Curtis Blow. They had multiple albums on Cetra, including some big hits. That was when their first Greatest Hits album came out, was like in 1986 or something, which is just the beginning of their career, really. They had records with like Refrigerator Perry. They had all kinds of crazy big singles, and they did like Sex Machine, and they were like big videos and stuff. And then they did their movie, The Disorderlies, which was a big, kind of comedy starring them. And that's when they signed to a major label, Chrysalis Records, and started doing really big records. Where they started to lose hip hop audience maybe by doing stuff like Wipeout with the Beach Boys, but they did big, huge records then, and into the 90s with Prince Marky D going solo and stuff, and producing stuff like Real Love for Mary J. Blige. So the Fat Boys, collectively and partially solo, had a pretty long, mega established career. They were big names, again, no pun intended. But do you know about the Fat Girls? The Fat Girls, of course, are exactly what they sound like, an all-female answer group to the Fat Boys. You've heard of Answer Record. We've done those. How about an answer group? So that's what the Fat Girls are. And of course, the Fat Girls are not the only group to kind of make a name for themselves based off of the Fat Boys. An even bigger and better known group are the Skinny Boys, who were on Jive Records. They had 3 albums out. They were, pretty major, and they had production by like Teddy Riley and all, and did records with the Wee Papa Girls, and they probably would have been even larger, except I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot by making themselves sort of a novelty spin-off of the Fat Boys. Hey, we're the Skinny Boys. They just sound like a cheap joke act. And so I think that really hurt them. The Fat Girls are really more trying to be a joke act, so it kind of worked in their favor. So this was their first single in 1986 on Posse Records. Posse Records was a pretty legit label. Lots of acts from like Mr. Magic were on there. DJ Hollywood was briefly on Posse Records. So they were, it was a real label, pretty active in sort of like the 85 to 89 era. And this was their first single. You notice here they're actually billed as the NYC Fat Girls, possibly to avoid some kind of legal issues. But you'll see they dropped that a little bit later on. Again, this is their first single. And one big name you'll notice here in the production credits are the Disco Twins. The Disco Twins were a pretty notable New York City act, but they actually didn't do too many records. They only had like 1 or 2. Here's one of them here on Profar Records with Star Child. Their other record is also with Star Child. They really just have the 2 singles, but they're still pretty established, and they went on to do things like produce the Fat Girls. Another name you should note here is Africa Islam. Of course, he's down with Ice-T and did a lot of great stuff for both Ice-T and the rest of the Rhyme Syndicate, like lots of great records over the years. He's a really talented guy. Maybe a little surprising to see him here, but hey, it's an early job for him. Africa Islam, 1986. This would have been around the same time, actually, he was doing the Zulu stuff with Ice-T and Melly Mel, which was also on Posse Records, so that's probably a large part of the connection there. And anyway, he's billed as doing the club mix you see there. But if you look at the track listing on this 12-inch, there is no club mix. So not to make like a big deal of it, but what I think it is just an error, because if you look on the B-side, there's a dub mix, which is basically an instrumental. Sometimes a dub mix has a few background vocals and stuff mixed in it. Sometimes, if you have a dub mix and an instrumental, the instrumental is usually clean, just the music, and dub mix will be like the hook plus the music. And if you play the B-side of the record, it has the dub mix just like it says. The A-side also says it's a dub mix, but it's a full vocal song that's actually longer than the main A-side vocal track. So I think that's really supposed to be club mix, and they just screwed up writing on the label. Like they just heard dub, club, blah, 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 and mix it up. So I believe the A-side is really the club mix, even though it doesn't say so. And so before we're going further, let's just listen to that.
Now put it in line and start to swing.
So that was Here Comes the Fat Girls. I just played you the one version because there's really not a significant difference between the main vocal version and the club mix, except the club mix is a little bit of a longer edit. So again, 1986, and what I'm sure you notice if you're familiar with the Fat Boys is that's basically a play on the big single from the Fat Boys' second album, The Fat Boys Are Back. The instrumental is a little bit different, but that ding, 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 that keyboard riff is totally from this record here, Fat Boys Are Back. This was a big hit for them, again, like 1985, from their second album. They had a music video and everything, totally would have been recognized, and, you know, back when music videos were pretty rare, so definitely would have been a big, recognizable Fat Boys theme. So to hear it on the Fat Girls was totally, this is like sort of their answer record to the Fat Boys Are Back. And that's pretty fun, you know, we've covered hip-hop answer records before. I've done 2 answered weeks. I might even do a third one someday on my channel. But I still left with questions about who the Fat Girls were, and it turns out that wasn't their only record. They came back in 1987 on this compilation album called Powerhouse, Don't Sleep on Us. As you can see here, it features the Disco Twins on the front cover, but they don't actually do any songs in this album, but it is on Twins Records, and they managed these guys, all these acts on this album, I think, is sort of like they're not quite, you know, sort of like Molly Marl in Control Volume 1, that kind of thing. This actually came first, so an earlier producer album than that, which is interesting historically. But it features all different acts featured along the side, including the Fat Girls. And what's cool about this is it gives you photos of all 3 members with their names. Gash, Tracy, and Coco. And what's interesting there, though, is if you paid attention to the first song, and even if I played more of the song through, you'd hear they name themselves other names. In fact, for a while, I thought maybe they're actually 2 different groups, the NYC Fat Girls and these Fat Girls might actually be 2 different groups, because to name yourself after the Fat Boys and just the only twist is that we're girls is a pretty easy, obvious, anybody could think of that. So, you know, and you already had the Skinny Boys and stuff. So I thought maybe there's actually 2 different groups. But the fact that they're both produced by the Disco Twins, I think, no way. And actually, when you pay close attention to the songs, they use their rap names, which are different. And that's why I thought maybe they're 2 different groups. Their rap names are Chunky, Yum Yum, and Butterball. A little bit less flattering, a little bit more into the hole where Fat Girls shtick. And they actually use that on both records, so it's definitely the same group. But okay, now let's just look quickly at the other guys on this record. We'll talk about this real quick. This is a full-length album. It's basically the A-side is R&B, the B-side is rap. And these 2 guys here are your R&B singers. They have 2 songs each, which are okay. They're pretty good. They're slightly New Jack, like pre-New Jack swingy, but coming into New Jack swing. One's a little bit more R&B-ish than the other one. They're fine. They're kind of cool. And then the other one is Coco. She has a song on here. Then the B-side is rap. And it's 2 songs by the Fat Girls and 3 songs by this guy here, Lonnie. You can tell he's the other rapper because he's got the gold chain. He's kind of in the B-boy stance. And he's pretty good. Like, you wouldn't go out of your way to buy a record by Lonnie, but, you know, pretty decent production. He's a pretty good MC. It's all right. Like, I'm not going to bother playing clips of them or anything. But, you know, if you get this album anyway, they're kind of cool to have as additional tracks on here. There's some cool sample-based production and stuff. And, you know, it's nothing amazing and mostly stuff you've kind of heard before using other tracks. But it's all right. It's pretty decent. Interesting, though, that one R&B song I said is by Coco. You might notice she's not here. She's on this side. She's actually one of the Fat Girls. They just credit her as Coco here, and she's just singing. I think she didn't really want to associate herself on her R&B song as one of the Fat Girls. She certainly doesn't mention food or being fat or being one of the Fat Girls in her song. It's a straight, pure R&B song. Almost kind of reminds me of like when Sylvia Robinson had an R&B career before she went you know, the queen of Sugar Hill Records and all that. So it's a straight R&B song, and it's pretty good. And actually, there's a little bit of singing on the one Fat Girl song, and that's probably her. So she's probably the one who could sing, and she's probably kind of setting herself up to be, you know, like once this Fat Girl fad passes, you know, I want to have a real music career as a singer. So that's probably what she's doing on here. So I will play you a clip of that, but I think we're much more interested in the 2 Fat Girl songs on here. One's called Vicious, and what's kind of cool here is it uses that Jimmy Pastor, that I forget the name of the song. You know, I'm not that big on old school funk stuff, but like you know, that one goes bum bum ba ba bum. It's like Bertha's Big Butt or something. Like it's like that, but better titled. So it kind of uses that funk sample, and it gets a lot of kind of, you know, what's cool about the Fat Girls too is that one of them is a human beatbox, and while she's not as talented or doesn't stand out nearly as much as Buff Love did, who was really pretty amazing, she's pretty good, and it's cool to actually have you know, an authentic human beatbox as one of the crew. In fact, the Skinny Boys did too, and he was actually a really good human beatbox. So, but it's just kind of cool and legitimate that they actually kept it on here too. Then the other song is Got to Get Into It, which is even a little bit more hardcore and not referencing kind of the fat girl stuff at all. And their other songs are talking about like, I'm the food processor and I need a refrigerator and all that kind of stuff, and totally all about being fat and working that into rhymes. Got to Get Into It then is where they just play straight, and they're just sort of like, we're a real hardcore female rap group, for 1987 standards. And it's actually pretty dope. I think it's maybe in some ways the best song. All three songs are pretty good, and none of the three songs are like amazing, but they're all pretty solid. They could have had they could have put out a couple of respectable records without the whole fat girls angle and done pretty well for themselves. I don't think they ever would have been amazing, huge success, but they had some talent there. There's another photo here on the back too, which is interesting because one of these girls is not the third fat girl. Two of them are the fat girls from the front, and one is missing, and then they've got another lady here in the back. I don't know who she is at all. There isn't another female artist or anything. They kind of subbed her in for this back photo here. Maybe she was a manager or an artist, or somehow down with the record label. I don't know, but she's not one of the three. She's not Butterball, Chunky, or Yum Yum. But okay, now let's throw ourselves into these next two records. Here we go. We're going to hear Vicious and Got to Get Into It by the Fat Girls, 1987, a year later. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, back by popular demand, it's the Fat Girl. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Fat Girl. National question.
I'm chunky. Take a chunk out of me. Cause once you get a hold of this, you won't let me be. Like a cat to a kid. You put me on a film like an earthquake disaster. I'll roll with your own. Heavenly sent, I was cursed with this gift. With the power to create a rap so dark swift. When we suck the MC, no time for vengeance. Attempt to battle me and show your ignorance. You eat me up like a bone of delicious like the words I'm saying. So damn vicious. Now you heard them talk about the other one. Now here's my girl doing a rebound. Call me big, but I'll be your mama. Can I get a drink? 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 Can I get a I've been working up a sweat for quite a while, so I can break it down into a new style. My rap will swarm, it will keep you warm, like on a Sunday night at the quiet storm. You will listen to it, try to get into it, and if you don't, you won't. That makes you just fluid. I've been rapping like a real life champ, kicking more bass than a pop amp. You feel my bass, but don't you get nervous like a fast food place. I'm giving you service. This is not a threat, this you can bet. Me rapping this style will make you wet. People stop and ask me how do I do it. I tell them dance. Can I get a drink? Can I get a drink? Can I get a I get off on a beat like this. On the dance floor, you would never get this. They like quarters or after we tie. You blend in with the style of hip hop.
And those two records really are it for the Fat Girls, except, as I say, Coco did a few background vocals on MTA Records. But one thing you'll see right here is they did do a big television appearance, big because it was on network television, the Regis and Kathy Lee show, which was, of course, a huge morning daytime television show. The Fat Boys themselves were on there promoting Disorderly. So again, this would be 1987. This was when they were big. And they're just doing their whole interview. I'm not going to play you that whole thing. You can look it up on YouTube, though. That's where I got this clip from. But it's just the three fat boys talking about Disorderly, talking about their career. Regis Philbin makes some kind of silly jokes about rapping and stuff. And then as a surprise, at the end of it, they say, we got a surprise for you. Because first they brought out a surprise for Kathy Lee, and then they go, we got a surprise for you too. And then the Fat Girls walk out and perform. They all get in front of mics and they sing.
Well, listen, Fat Boys, you guys are really hot right now, and I know that You got fans all over the world, but we got a little surprise for you today, okay?
Yeah. All right.
We got 3 of the biggest surprises you ever saw in your life. And are you ready right now for, ladies and gentlemen, here are the Fat Girls. Little tribute to my fat boys, please.
Hey.
They give you so much fun. What if they still keep facing people move to the side when they come in a place? They're the fat boy.
Ho, ho, ho,
Fat boy. Now resting their lives while they're having a ball. MCs their style, the bass and the house, the girls and the guys jump wall to wall. They're the fat boy. Fat boy.
These really are the Fat Girls. This is Kim Hedling. I'm sorry, you're Tracy Barber. All right, fine. And then we have Michelle Parker. And Kim Hedling over there. Herring. It's nice to have you here. We just thought we'd give you guys a little surprise. Huh?
Oh, surprise that!
Yeah.
It's time for us to give you a surprise.
Well, now listen, we brought you 3 lovely, beautiful women here.
We go to party now.
Yeah.
Put it down.
I know what I want to do. I want to marry Buffy.
Yeah, well, that's another show. Thank you very much, guys, for going. The movie is tonight, right?
That is the last appearance by the Fat Girls. Pretty dope. Their records actually are pretty cool, and I think it's just kind of cool that they exist, and I was able to find out so much about them and share so much about them with you. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.